Alright, looks like we're live. Welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. I still have not missed one, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy about that. And today, we are going to be working on level editing. And specifically, I made a level editor custom made in the engine. So I'm going to be showing that off, and we'll be trying some things out today. But a lot of picking up from last week, because last week I was showing off the jump button and how you can jump around now. It's actually kind of hard to see when there's nothing in this room. Like, this is a big, wide open, empty room, and there's nothing in it. So we're going to be filling that in with extra stuff today, and it's going to be very, very nice. Are we jumping today? Yes, we are jumping today. So the biggest update that I made, actually, I think that the work I did over the past week is the biggest change to the game. And it has to do with those ledges. I'm actually going to pull up Tiled real quick, because last week I was showing how in this level layout that I was working on, I did not want players to be able to jump up on these ledges. I was like, I think that it's going to be too difficult. But then I thought, actually it would be kind of fun to jump up on these ledges. So that's what I worked on over the past week, and it turned out very, very good. I'm excited to show it off. So all these walls and ledges, they used to be just completely unblockable walls. Like, you couldn't walk through them in any way. But now you can jump up onto them, and I'll be showing that off. Also, this stream, while live at least, is going to have no ads. I'm going to try out no ads, so no interruptions. We're going to see how that goes. But I'm also going to experiment with turning them on after the stream is over. But I'm seeing a lot of folks in chat already, like The Real Danny, Rescue Squad, Adele, Wolf, Team Mackle, Ole, and Fiona. Thank you so much for being here. So like I was saying, right now the level is completely empty. Also, Roy BGB, I'm a bit stream behind, so I'm going to leave soon, but I think it would be cool if you made a stream YouTube video where you make a game in Lua in 24 hours. That's actually a really cool idea. I think I could pull off something pretty neat. If I had like a small scoped idea, that would be really cool. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a member, Roy BGB. Future 34, just in case. Angry Berry, Spicy Chip. If you remember, I posted on my Discord about that breakable wall. Yeah, that was good. We're going to talk more about walls today, because that's pretty much the entirety of what I'm going to be showing off in Coffin Train. I'm going to be showing off the level editor. So as you can see, guys, right now we are in a big, wide open area, and there's nothing here. It's just like, it's completely empty. So I made an in-game level editor where you can switch to, boop, we can switch to the grid view. So now it's like we can see into the matrix. And I think I'm actually going to call it that when I have the final version out there, because the goal with making an in-game level editor is that it makes level editing for me easier, but also it's going to make mod support and custom levels. I see a lot more potential with this. So the way this works is when you're in the level edit view, essentially what this is right now, it's a topographical map. It's telling us where is the elevation, where are all the slabs of, like, all the platforms at. And as you can see right now, there is nothing. It's a big empty room. There's nothing in this level. So what you can do is you can equip these different signs, and the signs are representative of different elevations. So right now I'm holding the 1 sign, and that means I can now click on these different tiles. So I can apply some 1 right here. All right, so what that does is it creates some elevation specifically at this point. And if I switch back to the regular view, there is a platform there. And these platforms are actually different than the platforms in the original game, because the original game, you could not go through these at all. These were just impenetrable barriers. It was an impenetrable wall that you could not go through. But now, you can jump up onto them. So the game has elevation now, and you can actually see it. Like, if you watch the player's shadow, you can see the moment where it switches from the higher elevation to the lower elevation, and you can create levels out of this. So if I go back to the topographical view, I can put like another one right here. And now there's 2 of them, and you can like jump between them. So I'm up here, I can fall in between them. Also, you can walk behind them. And so there's intelligent rendering with all of the tiles, and you can like jump between them like this. So platforming in this game is definitely possible now. So there's no need for third-party software like tiled. Now the goal is that there would be no need for tiled. The goal is that everything would be done in-game, and you would have different weapons. The idea is that you would have this sign weapon to like draw in the topography. And also, I'm only showing ones right now, but there are like the twos, so I can put in a 2 elevation right here. And if we go back, we'll see that this 2 elevation is taller. So there's actual logic with this. This is a taller map. I can't jump up onto it because it's taller. But if I jump onto this platform and then jump onto this platform, you can. It's actually a 3D environment now. And when I walk behind these, like, it really is 3D, kind of. It's still a 2D engine, but it uses a lot of 3D principles in order to get this, like, elevation logic working. It looks a bit trippy. I think that it takes a bit, it's 2.5D. It's still 2D, but it uses logic to make it 3D. It looks a bit trippy in some cases. I think it's going to look less trippy as the rest of the level fills in. Because, yeah, right now, we are in this, like, big, empty void. There's this big, empty green void, and it's hard to even tell where the ground is. So let's say that I went back to the topography view, and let's draw some like really big cliffs. I think this will help us get our bearings. So I'll put it like a 7, or we'll do 6. So I'm gonna start filling this in with like an edge to the map, kind of. I haven't done this, by the way. I think this is gonna be fine. I can't think of any reason why it wouldn't be. But I want to see what happens when there's like actual barriers, because I think it's going to help with getting our bearings for where the ground actually is. It's a little weird. No, it actually works okay. Yeah, so it like even with just this wall, it feels like it's a lot clearer like what the elevation is like, because this gives us a point of reference. And you can see that, like, in some cases, there's some weird tile rendering orders that are it's kind of hard. Shouldn't half of the shadow be on the ground while jumping? Yeah, you're right. So it would be kind of. The math behind it is that you're right. From a physics standpoint, when I'm standing on the edge like this, it does not make sense for the player's shadow to be casted at its feet when actually it should be casted towards the ground. But in a way, this does kind of help signify like where the player actually is, because if half of the shadow was on the ground and then half the shadow was on the platform, that kind of makes it unclear like what elevation is the player actually on. So the fact that the shadow sticks to one point at a time, it does help with that. But I see what you mean, because yeah, you get like that jump. You can see that jump happen because it happens off the ledge. Would it be easier way to make a day-night cycle in a game and make events executed at day or night? That sounds fine. I don't really like that concept personally for my game, because it introduces like a timer. Like there's a timer counting down for the day and night. I'm familiar with Python like intermediate level, open to learning new languages, so should I use Pygame or Love2D? You use whichever one you want. My recommendation actually is download both of them. Make a small little test game in both of them, and then choose the one that feels better to you. Because if I told you, like, yeah, you should definitely use Love2D, maybe that's not the right choice for you. Maybe Pygame would be better just because it clicks with you better. I can't really predict that. All of the engines can make good games, so it doesn't really matter too much. Maybe a transition for the shadows so it would feel smoother. Possibly. Yeah, I'm with you that that's a little odd. I think that's a detail that I can handle later, because right now it is still working properly. It feels like it's lagging a little bit though. Yeah, I'm definitely losing frames. I wonder if there's some performance issue or some data leak. Yeah, I'm losing a lot of frames now. Maybe add shadows to the cliffs. Yeah, the shadows need cliffs around their the bottom edges. That will help clarify where the ground is. I clipped the shadow and made it appear half on the ground, half on the cliff. Well, where is that cliff? Like, is it actually cut in half? I removed the ads, yes. So this is the problem with that idea. Cutting it in half. Like, if I cut the sprite down the middle, well, what if the player is standing right here, where it's even farther out than the middle? Like, you can't just split it down the middle, because then you'll actually see the split. The idea is you could use like shaders to accurately predict exactly which pixel it's being cut off at. But that's what I mean, is like, if it's casting shadows at a pixel level, I don't know. Also, I need to work my neck. My posture is bad. I created a map using tiled following my tutorial, but it scales incorrectly. You need to use a camera. If you're using, I have another tutorial on the channel about using a camera, and that's the trick to making sure it scales properly. Smoothing the shadow transition would look better. I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would, because it's... In real life... Quick hydration check, thank you. In real life, a shadow doesn't transition. It is instant. Like, think of an object moving off of a platform. The shadow would instantaneously appear wherever the shadow is casting it. So I don't think a transition is the right idea, because then you would see the shadow, like, moving. I don't think that would look right. I think what you would need is some kind of very precise check on exactly, like, what pixel to cut off the elevation. But even that, I don't think I want to do that. I kind of like that it's telling you which platform you're on. It's moving at light speed in real life. Well, yeah, it's moving at light speed in this game, too. It's moving at 60 frames per second, and each frame happens instantaneously. So, yeah, in my game, it's also the cast is happening instantaneously. It's just checking where is it casting the shadow. And right now, it's only casting it based on a linear thing, or a binary thing. Is the player on the platform or off the platform? But right now, it's not accounting for what if you're mostly on the platform or mostly off. Because you're right, when I'm standing mostly off the platform, it looks weird like this. But that's a kind of a hard problem to solve. I'm very curious to see what the game's code looks like. Can you show it? Yeah, I show the code all the time. Is there a specific thing you want to look at? Can you use like a mask for the shadow based on the level of the platform? Yeah, you could use a mask, but it's more than that, because, you know, actually, here, I'm going to show another thing. I'm going to show another thing real quick, and we're going to start over. This is going to help a lot with seeing the matrix, because I don't think that it's quite clear enough. So I'm going to turn on true for show colliders and true for show fields. Okay, so now we got the colliders turned on, and again, I'm going to paint in our little platform. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so this is what the, this is kind of what it looks like, is you have the field, which checks if you're on the platform or not. It's not rendering right. It's showing the tiles over top of the hitbox. I'm glad I used tile-based movement instead of pixel-based. Tile-based movement. I mean, you're right. When you use tile-based movement, it constrains you to like a 16 by 16 area, as opposed to. And by the way, my movement isn't pixel movement. It's sub-pixel movement. It's moving at like 1,000th of a pixel. Very, very precise. So it's as precise as it gets. I wouldn't say it's even pixel art, because a pixel art game is pixel movement, but this is sub-pixels. Yeah, because think about this. This player character here is pixelated, but I'm running this on a 4K monitor, right? So like, this is a 4K image that we're looking at right now, but yet this is pixel art. So what it's doing is it's scaling up the pixels to be really big pixels. And so that allows the player to like move at sub-pixel movement, and you can kind of see it. Look at the tip of the sign, and see how it's like landing in between the pixels of the ground above it. It's not snapping the player. It's not snapping the player to any particular pixel, because if it did, it would look a little bit more choppy. I thought you were just zoomed in. I am zoomed in. The grid in the game is just like, you don't move at one pixel at a time. you move maybe at 0.1 pixels at a time. So that way you get really smooth movement. Like, look at the way the player moves to a stop. The player moves to a stop slowly. If it was like pixelated, or if it was pixel movement, you wouldn't be able to get that really, really slow acceleration. It may be hard to add the shadows since the level 6 elevation has to go on 5 and below. You're right. So let's show that too. Is that's something that I'm working on right now, where the tile decision process for these elevations is very, very difficult. This is Love 2D. The framework is Love 2D, but you know, all of this logic is custom coded. Subpixel movement is arguably easier to implement, especially when it comes to physics. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that because if you had to snap the physics to the nearest closest pixel, that does complicate things. I'm sorry, my nose is itchy. Okay, so what I was going to show is that if we take out a sign, and we go here, so let's say we drew a platform right here, okay, and then it looks like this. Now, if I go back and then I make a really high platform, like a 5 right here, I think it's gonna get a little bit screwed up because this is still a work in progress. So I suspect that when I go back, oh, actually it looks fine. No, it did get screwed up. So this platform up here got influenced by this really tall one down here, and the logic still works. Like, I can still walk behind the platforms. It's still fully functional. Like, the hitboxes are fine, but you can see that this one tile right here, it got broken. Probably because, like, the detection logic for tiles, it needs to account for the different elevations a little bit better. How would you be able to change the style of the map like a dungeon or house? You would be able to do that pretty easily because the way I organized it is you'd be able to just swap out the sprite sheet. Oh my gosh, my Windows Explorer is really slow right now. Let me show the tile sheet for this real quick. Okay, so this is what the tile sheet looks like when I'm spawning cliffs. And if I wanted to, say, change to a different type of cliff, like this one, it's similar. Actually, I still need to make some edits to it. But the idea is, as long as the layout of the two images is exactly the same, it would be able to just like swap the texture out, and it wouldn't really be any different. So right now I have this one, and as long as I make this image have the same tiles, which I need to adjust it a little bit. It's a bit behind, but you'd just be able to swap out the images, and it wouldn't be any different. When your height-specific collisions update, is it during the jump state? It is during all moments of the game, because, like you're saying, I wish I had a way to easily swap between this. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and implement a debug swap because I want to make a function debug toggle. Yeah, we'll do toggle colliders. Self.show hitboxes equals not. So I want to show both of these, and then I'm going to tie this to an input. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. I really should have. I'll put this here. No, actually, I want that one. I'll put this on this one. Semicolon. Okay, so now when I start the game and I run it, oh, it does kind of sound like Mute City. It sounds like the original one, yeah. Okay, so now I can toggle between them. This is going to make it a lot clearer. So again, I'm going to draw my little platform, draw the taller one right here. Okay. And actually, the tile over here is fixed because the issue only happens with 5s. So let's change it to the 5s because the overlap was just like perfect the way it was before. Yeah, now it broke this tile. So it looks like whatever corner tile is happening on the higher elevation is screwing up the lower elevation corner tile. And you can see the overlap too. That's kind of funny. Title of the stream sounds amazing. Yeah, we're working on a level editor. So, and what I was going to show is that when I show the colliders, it makes it a lot easier to kind of tell, like, where are the collisions even happening? Because it happens at the base. Music is loud, you're right, thank you. Thank you. Peak, it is totally peak. Is when you can see the actual collision for the ground here, and the logic behind it is every collider has an elevation to it. So when the player is on the ground, this collider has an elevation of 0, but it is also adjusting for the jump. So when the player jumps up, it's testing to see is the elevation high enough to cross over. And then when the crossover happens, then the elevation of the player increases, and then everything works out. That's quite early. No worries, thank you for stopping in. Is this something new or you want to release for others? I want this to be a part of the game. Just got deja view of me explaining this. I mean, I'm sure I've explained this lots and lots of times. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. I had a question. How did you come up with the name of the game? The name of the game I came up with just because, like, I was researching different possible, like, fantasy style names for modding. Yeah. The trick to finding a good name is that it has to be good and fitting to the style of whatever you're working on, but it also can't be used yet. That's part of the really difficult aspect. Is a lot of names are already taken. I had other names that I wanted to choose, but they were already used, so I had to come up with something different. Pizza Med, hi, welcome in. It looks like Minesweeper. A little bit, yeah, with the tiles and stuff. Totally. Oh, the online tag you're talking about, Moonshire, Chalagade. Yeah, that's like a portmanteau of where I used to live. I'll explain it later. What does a JSON Lua file handle? So, you're talking about how I have a file called json.lua. This is to read and interpret and save data. It's a JSON parser, and it's actually one that I wrote myself. So what this does is you pass it in the data from a JSON file, and this is going to take that string and convert it into Lua data. Because the levels look like this. I decided to use JSON for the level data because JSON is a pretty widely used type of file just for organizing data. Sinju, hi, welcome in. It's about people being bound to dreams they can't escape. I see what you mean. You were looking for a name that combines well with Monday. I wish that was true, but like it's just a happy coincidence. So what's going to happen is that the json.lua accepts all of this stuff as a big string, okay? And then it converts it into Lua data, because although this looks pretty similar to Lua data, it's not that much different. It does still need to be converted. So this json.lua converts it into Lua data, and then now I'm able to use it as like regular tables. Yeah, I only use JSON. And I do the same thing with the save data. I don't have any examples on hand that I can show, but the save data I changed to JSON as well. It used to be Lua. And the reason why I switched is for standardization, because I think that save data using JSON is pretty common, and I like using what's standard. But also, Lua is a scripting language, and JSON is not. JSON is just a data storing format. It's just a bunch of values. And Lua has logic that you can incorporate with it. It's an actual programming language. And JSON is just data. So the risk with having Lua files as your save data is you're kind of risking having this like scripting language just sitting there. It has the potential for having malicious code put into it, whereas JSON, it's a little bit harder. Now, I'm sure that you could still put malicious code in here, and this JSON file needs to account for, like, make sure that you're not importing any sort of Lua injection or something like that, because that's something you need to worry about. but it's even more of a problem if it was just like a Lua file that's sitting on your computer. I could see that being a security risk. A small one. I don't really think it's much of a security risk, but this is a slightly better way to do it. I think I'm going to use JSON to save my files. I have been worried about saving games at the moment. I'm busy making the game loop. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about save data until you have a solid game loop anyway. Why not just text file? Because look how nicely this is organized. A text file doesn't really have this sort of matrix code organization format to it. Sure, I could just call this file demo.txt and then organize it this way, but it's organized like a JSON. It's like JSON has this table nested structure that is it's more formatted. Meanwhile, .text has no format whatsoever. You can import any .text into this, and then it wouldn't know how to parse it. But when it's a JSON, it's standardized. So every JSON can be plugged into this JSON.lua and be converted into Lua data. You wouldn't have to worry about someone improperly formatting the .text, because it would be like there's a JSON JavaScript object notation. It's widely used in very white label. I didn't actually know that it stood for JavaScript object notation. I used it when I was a web developer. I use JSON all the time. I didn't specifically realize that there was a JavaScript like history behind it, because I used it for my TypeScript stuff, but TypeScript itself is just a JavaScript fork, I think, or a JavaScript replacement. I started making Cookie Clicker for coding practice, and I started saving data with Lua. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's fine. Because when I released like Necrozone and the current Steam demo uses Lua as the save data. It was originally just JavaScript. Yeah, that makes sense. My old project used to use JSON objects with JSON objects within it. I think that's fine. That makes perfect sense to me. That sounds like something like, let's say that I didn't like having this slabs matrix, because this is where like the cliffs are. Let's say that I thought I was an eyesore having slabs stuck within this JSON file. I could like export this out to a different JSON file and then reference it here and then like plug it in, you know. Explaining the JSON acronym just makes it more confusing, because there are also JavaScript objects that are different things. That makes sense. Yeah, if you're using like inheritance or object-oriented programming within JavaScript, then when you say JavaScript object, then I can see why that would be confusing. Just make sure your game doesn't crash in the middle of writing JSON files. Sure, that's true. That's true about writing to any file. That was always a problem with like old retro games, where if you shut the game off while you were in the middle of saving, it would corrupt your save file and then you would lose it. I doubt that's as much of a problem today, just because there's so much like redundancy and so much improvements in operating systems and all this structure. I think it's unlikely that closing the game in the middle of writing would cause the save file to crash, but I bet in my system, where it's more custom coded, I bet it could possibly happen, where if it crashes mid-write, it might leave the save data in some kind of corrupted state, and that would be a problem. Can I see the level editor? Yeah, definitely. I should have shown this earlier. So the way the level editor works is you can see these different elevated platforms, and they get defined in the matrix view. So you can go into the matrix view and see. So if I wanted to put like another platform over here, you can do that. And it creates a little skinny, tall one. And you can jump onto it. That's so cool. Thanks. I'm really proud of it. Whoops. Let's see. So go back here, and then yeah. So I probably am planning to design all my levels like this. I want to go back to trying having a wall, because it felt like that caused a slowdown earlier. How do you save the levels, though? That is something that I have not done yet. So how I will save the levels is actually really simple. It's not going to be hard to implement at all, because what's going to happen is this JSON.lua it has a parse JSON function, but it also has this encode JSON function. So when I want to save the map, all of this level data that we see on screen right now, like all of these like 4s that I'm painting in, all of this stuff currently is in memory as Lua data. You know, that's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but that's essentially what it is. Is Lua is the programming language that's organizing the data, and it's using its format. So all I need to do is take the level table from Lua, plug it into this encode JSON, and all this function is going to do is take all that code and convert it into a big long string, and then I can take that string and save it, or write it, I guess. I can just use a write function and write it to a JSON file. And this is all going to happen within the Love2D file system. I think Love2D even has the write process. Let me see, data. Or where would this be? This would be in profile. I think I have like a save function here. Yeah, profile save. And I have the save data section. So the way this works is, yeah, so it's encoding the JSON data, and you can see that all it's doing is I'm passing in like the config or the items I've collected, the map that you've completed. So all that stuff gets passed into this JSON data, and then gets love.filesystem.write. So it's literally just writing a new folder, the name of the file, or a new file, and the name of the file is in whatever folder, the file name, .json, and then the string of whatever it is. So it's going to be a really, really easy process to do. I'm basically just going to do exactly this, but using the Terra, because all of this level editor stuff is in Terra.lua, is what I called it. So I think I can just take this Terra.map, or maybe, actually, it's going to be saved into different segments, because, for example, the 4s here, all of this data translates to this slabs section. So you can see it's a bunch of like 0s, but then you have the 2s here, and you have the 1s. So this is what I'm creating right now in the game, the topography level editor. It's creating this slabs setup. And when it gets converted to JSON, it's going to be converted to one of those big matrices like that. Level editing is swimming a menu, then level 1, level 2. Yeah, switching between levels is kind of a challenge. If you know Lua, why don't you create Roblox games too? The game is easier to get viral, and the revenue is pretty well. I mean, I could do that, but I also like creating my own thing. That's kind of like, I could use a 3D game engine, because a 3D game engine like Unity or Godot, that's already more fleshed out. They already have a built-in level editor. I'm sure that they have some of this stuff baked in, but I like doing it myself. And also, there's this engine here, this framework is open source, so I have full ownership over all of this code, and all of the stuff, all the functionality here is fully mine. Whereas if I made it in Roblox or Unity or Godot, it would not be fully mine. There would be some rev share. Roblox is probably even more controlling over the products that get made for it. So there's pros and cons to each. You're right that if I used Roblox, there is probably a wider audience to getting like if my goal was to make money, you're probably right. If your goal is to make money and specifically just get something in front of people to get an income going, you're probably better off sticking with the mobile market or some kind of platform where people are actually spending money. Like you said, Roblox is a decent idea there. But at the same time, I kind of have different goals. If you build your level editor this way, are you setting it up for wave function collapse stuff? Wave function collapse stuff. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Godot is open source too. Oh, you're right. Godot is open source. Yeah, Godot would be a pretty good choice too. Godot is a 3D game engine, and it's getting a lot of traction, a lot of support recently, so that would definitely be a good one. This is a passion project. I still think that given the business choice, I would still choose Love2D because I know how to use it really well. And I'm sure there's some cons to Godot that I don't know about very well. there's some cons to Love2D, like working with UI is challenging, and you have to download some third-party libraries to get up and running. But at the same time, I'm sure there's some problems with Godot. Like for example, I just watched Blargus's video. So Blargus is another YouTuber, and he made a video about his launch of his Blood Thief game, and it's awesome. He did an amazing job. But he was talking about how when he launched, there was a problem where at the very moment he launched, Godot had some kind of driver update misalignment. And because of that, a lot of people who ran his game had like runtime issues that was completely out of Blargus's control. He had no way to fix that or prevent that from happening. All he could do is warn people, hey, you need to update your drivers to play this game. And something like that is really... I feel like I hear more about that when it's with a 3D engine compared to a lightweight framework like this. I feel like a 3D engine has a lot more overhead and dependencies, but I don't know that. I'm sure there are pros and cons to all of them. Godot TOS, I'm not quite sure about that. I'm sure there's some truth to that. Would you work on one of those pass the game challenges, like the ones from Blackthorn Prod? So he actually asked me to join a couple of those. He asked me a few times, but I wasn't able to do it. Just because it's a big time commitment to be involved with a challenge like that, and I just wasn't, either I wasn't interested or I wasn't available, because it would be a lot of time to decide. Because this is the thing, is when you collab on a big project like that, you are choosing to spend time on that as opposed to your own thing. And right now, I really am focused on my own stuff. I did a collab with Juniper for example, but that was a pretty low stakes, pretty easy thing to do. I just spent like half a day putting together a script and filming something, and it was good. But something like the Blackthorn Prod thing, where it's a full challenge, I'm actually working on something, that would be a very big commitment, and I wasn't willing to do, wasn't willing to put in the time, because if I spent like a few days working on that, then that's a few days that I'm not working on this, and I really, really want to spend all the time I can working on this. Side topic, animation, am I using Sprite? Yeah, I'm using Sprite. The animation, though, is just like a sprite sheet, so all of the animations for the game, it's like split up into a bunch of layers, and like this is a sprite sheet, so you can see right here in the middle is the player's walk cycle animation, but it really is just a bunch of individual images that when the game runs, it's swapping between each of these images on the fly, like over time, and that's how you get the walk cycle animation. Those are some ugly numbers. Yeah, they are. These are some ugly numbers. Also, you can still jump on these even though they're invisible. It's kind of funny. I'm using LibreSprite because I didn't want to spend 20 bucks. I don't blame you. Yeah, I like Sprite because it gets all the updates, some of the betas and stuff, and LibreSprite is it's more open source. But I think they're both open source though. So if you want to use Sprite, I think you can compile it yourself. What is your following game topic? And do you think it will take about 3 years again to create the game? Isn't creating a game in 3 years a risky move? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. So this is the thing. Even though it feels like I'm kind of like stepping backwards and rebuilding things from the ground up, I really don't see it that way, because all of the time that I've spent so far on the game is not wasted. A lot of the code is being rebuilt, but the assets are not being rebuilt. I'm still using a lot of the same stuff. A lot of the level layouts, I'm not going to be using them one for one, but they are like the design, the ideas, the flow of the games. Also the weapons, like this is a big pencil, but you have all the like these weapons. That's not really changing. So the foundation was already there. I'm going into it with like this updated, rebuilt engine, but the foundation is already there. I'm going into it with a lot more clarity, where I do not at all think it's going to take 3 years to reach the finish line. I think that now that I have this engine being built up in such a responsible way with so much foresight, I think it's going to be a lot smoother to get to the finish line. And really the goal here is to build the engine up to a place where it's very easy to produce content, because that was the biggest problem. So the Steam demo that's out right now has a very big problem, where creating new content for that Steam demo is a nightmare. It is so clunky, it was so hard to work with, there was so much like copy and pasting logic in different places, And if I wanted to make a new enemy, it was basically like starting over from scratch each time. If I wanted to make a new boss, there was so much copy and pasting and hard coding. It was so bad. It was so bad. And if I would have insisted on keeping up with that engine, then reaching the finish line would have been a train wreck, because I would have had all these bosses, all these enemies, all these areas built on different rusty, crappy code, and it would just be hanging on by a thread. But now I'm basically like taking all that content that I had and just sticking it into this new engine. It's just a whole new code base. All of this code in this updated like Moonshire engine, this is completely fresh and new, and it's built with like the end goal in mind of how I want this game to be. It's a lot cleaner, and once like this level editor is in a solid place and there's less bugs and things are ironed out, things are moving very quickly. I think it's going to reach that point really soon. I'm going to be able to start busting out levels a lot quicker, and I could also hire people to help me with designing levels, because I've been doing it all on my own. I can handle the like design layout ideas and like saying this level needs this, and this, and needs to flow into this, but I could pay someone else to like do this process here, where you're like modding in the levels and painting in the tiles and putting in the decorations and the textures and all that stuff. That's a lot of work, and I had to do it myself before because everything was so custom. Everything was so awkwardly created. It was all built around tiled, and it worked, but it was so awkward. But now, if it's built into the game, people can just like play the game and create levels in the same way that I will create levels. So it's all very unified. Watch out for those for those twos. They're dangerous. Oh, they totally are. Did you do computer science before, or how did I enter the scripting world? I did do. Yeah. So I got a computer science degree. And I worked as a software developer for quite a while before I started doing game development. Well, I've been doing game development my whole life. Basically, you should start doing game development now if you're interested in it. You don't need to like have a CS degree, or you don't even need to study programming at all. Just download like Game Maker or Godot and start making a game. You do not need to know how to program. Just start making it. What's livestream.json? Livestream.json is the level that we're working in right now. So right now, this is the empty room that we're in. And then as I'm painting stuff in, like I added all these 4s, I added in the 3s and the 2s and stuff. So all of that stuff, once it gets saved to livestream.json, it's literally going to put in like 1 and 1 and 1. So whenever I'm painting in this elevation stuff, it quite literally is going into this file and changing it whenever I save, at least. When my early playable build of my game, if I share it on Discord, will you be willing to give feedback? As long as it's not something that has to be downloaded and executed on a computer. I recommend, like, this is a hard thing, because if you remember on my channel a few years ago, or maybe like a couple years ago, I got hacked on Discord because I opened someone's game and that game turned out to be just a virus. I was messaging someone that I knew, but their account had been hacked, and the hacker was sending out this fake game to people, and I fell for it. So I do not run games from the internet anymore. If it's a game that's available through like itch.io, or here, I'll find like itch.io web games. There are lots and lots of... Whoops. I'm going to go to itch.io and show off what I'm talking about. Some of these are really funny. I don't even know which one to click on. I'm kind of afraid to click on any of these. Because the idea is these are all going to be running in your browser. And that way it's not like downloading any malware to your computer, hopefully. Like maybe it's possible there's a way that the Unity web player can distribute malware, but I don't know if it can. So it is hard. Wow, this is awesome. Holy cow, this is amazing. What was this made with? Oh, this was made with Unity. I'm always impressed by how web games look. They really do look good. Shop. fixed level dimensions, or can they grow? They are configurable. So in this JSON file, you can just change this to whatever you want. So right now it's 40 tiles by 30 tiles, so it's pretty big. But you can change this literally to anything, any dimensions you work. Would a video work? Yeah, a video is totally fine. And that game looks sweet. Yeah, it totally did. I really am impressed by games that can run in browser. I have Necrozone. If you go to necrozone.com, I have the very, very short, like, it's not even a demo, but it's just like a build that happens to run in browser. So like this, I do know how to make web games. I do know how to like port Love2D to run in a browser. It's just, wow, it actually cached my save data too. That's really cool. I think this level only has the one enemy though. Oh no, it has two. If you want, I can give you my user. So yeah, just if you guys are sharing games with each other, I really do recommend watching my video about when I got hacked, because it's a really, really important wake-up call. The whole point is that even though I do trust all of you individually, I don't expect any of you would send me something malicious. The thing, and like, I trust my friends too. You never know who you're talking to online. Even though it might say that you're talking to your dad or someone, it might not actually be your dad. It might say that your mom is calling you and texting you and asking you to send you like some Venmo money, but it might not actually be her. And in my case, like, someone was messaging me telling me that they wanted me to test their game, and it was someone that I talked to all the time, and I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll test the game, and I trusted them, but it wasn't them. It was just someone acting like them. I was tricked. I remember you asking me to prove I was real when I sent you the old Legend Lua. Yeah, I got really spooked. I got really spooked after that. Just because you never know. You never know anymore. You don't want to ruin your dev machine. Yeah, that's what happened. Is I had to do a hard reset on my computer. Actually, I threw away the entire solid state and just got a new one. That was very extra. I probably didn't need to do that, but I still did. I am very, very nervous about malware now, and I do my best to be safe, but it's still freaky. I have one of my online friends, and I heard his voice, but he does sound like the age, but you never know. It's so true. You can be, like, a voice, you can change your voice. In fact, you might not even be talking to a person. You might be talking to an AI. AIs sound like people now. You can't really tell. The Turing test has been passed. They are indistinguishable, if used in a very high fidelity way. Like, you can find examples of bad AI voices, but there are some ones that are very, very hard to tell. At work, when I get locked out, my laptop manager needed to speak with me on a video call. That makes sense, just because it's like 2-factor authentication. Honestly, I kind of want to get 3-factor authentication for like my important accounts. So if you don't have 2-factor authentication, by the way, that's when you log into your email, and it asks you to like confirm through your phone. So that way, if someone got your password, like on the other side of the world, like someone in Russia can't just get your password and sign in. Because that happened to me, actually. Someone in Russia, it sent me an email to one of my accounts. It said someone in, it was some Russian address, tried to sign in. Is this you? And I said, no, it's not me. That's freaky. We become what we behold. I saw that just a second ago. I like that noise. I never heard of this. Again, I'm really impressed by a game that can run in a browser like this. Am I gonna ruin the vibe having Spyro music play? Oh, that's cool. Okay. I like that guy. This is cute. I love this. Oh, wow. Gross, go get a room. This game's awesome. I love this. I know that game is pretty old. Oh, really? I've never even heard of this before. Whoa. Came out in 2016 or 17. Oh, jeez, that scared me. There's some scary guy just screaming. You gotta catch him doing something interesting? Okay. Okay, that's pretty fun. Crazed square attacks. This game is amazing. Kingdom Deliverance 2? I'm not familiar with that either. Oh, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Yeah, I do know about that. Hats aren't cool anymore. Oh, that's sad. I love this art style. You also got to catch who they're scared by. Okay. Are they scared by the cricket? Circle for your squares. I am a big fan of this game. It is very, very cool. Humph. This is like Newgrounds. Who made this? Nikki Case? Does anyone know if he made anything else? This guy's really mad. Left, right animals? Yeah, this would be pretty easy to code. Oh, I didn't catch that. Dang it. Just missed it, it says. This is getting kind of annoying. It's a metaphor for news media? Oh, I see. Ah, peace is boring. I'm gonna turn the freaking volume off. It's too annoying now. Almost everyone hates everyone. This is good. I love this. Oh. What? No! Oh no! They censored it. Be scared, be angry. Oh my god. It turned into like a freaking Newgrounds massacre. That's pretty funny. I love that. I love games like that. That's a good twist. Peak gaming, totally. It's just at the end. I gotta tone it down. I don't wanna show anything too crazy on stream. But that was a cute game. That was a cute idea. Was learning HTML a good idea? Sure. Yeah. I use HTML all the time at my job. Yeah, any website that you work on is going to use HTML. In fact, this Necrozone build, in order to make it work in this browser window, I had to use some HTML for the site to house the game window, if that makes sense. So yeah, HTML is definitely important. But like, all of this stuff is it just depends on what you want to use it for. Because if your goal is to make games, then like HTML is only kind of useful. It's more useful to learn a game engine or use a game framework. I think there's some HTML game, like HTML is just a markup language. If you wanted to make games, you need a coding language. I use HTML for my website. I use HTML for all my websites, yeah. Turning off sound doesn't seem to fully work on Necrozoom website. I still get UI sounds. Yeah, I believe it. I bet there's all kinds of weirdness. Is it very hard to make AI bots to play like a card game of any kind? I've never actually tried that before. The way that like AI works in my game is that like the enemies themselves are just checking the grids. So they see the matrix like this, and they can see where the elevations are, and they can see where all the enemies and all the players are. So it uses that information to just navigate. New viewer here, tell me something. Is it cheating if I aim to make a game with similar mechanics as yours? It's not cheating at all. No. Because my game uses similar mechanics to other games too. I think it would be weird if you just like took my character and did the exact same thing with it, or like, you know. But the game mechanics and ideas, that's just a part of it. It's a different thing to just like blatantly steal. I don't like. There's. As long as you're not blatantly stealing my stuff, that's perfectly fine. But using my ideas, that's great. I want you to do that. I have ideas and styles, and a lot of the ideas I get come from games I play. It's the same for artists too. Artists, they look at other people's art and it inspires them. So if you're watching my videos and you get inspired by them, I'm honored. I'm proud. Thank you for that. And of course you can use ideas, but just don't like use my sprites or like very specific concepts. It's more like I'm inspired by Mario, so I made my character jump around, or I'm inspired by old school Link to the Past, so that's why I have like this pixel art style, or Link's Awakening. Just like any art, we take inspirations from a bunch of stuff. Moonshire takes inspiration from a bunch of different games, and future devs might take inspiration from this one. It's so true, and I'm honored by that idea. I hope it happens. Don't worry, he's not Nintendo. You can say Nintendo. Very inspiring work, totally. I saw on itch store someone is selling a character sheet that looks like mine. That's fine. Like, here's the thing: is my character kind of looks like Shy Guys. Like, you could look at my character and say, oh, well, this is just a ripoff of Mario's Shy Guys. And it's like, I guess, it does have, like, a hood and a cloak. But, you know, what more can you do? I'm sure that the one on itch.io is a red-cloaked dude. But Shy Guys are also red-cloaked dudes, so I don't really know. Is it worth doing? Is it worth doing what? In fact, it already has, since I got an idea for a mechanic in my game from yours. Awesome, that's cool to hear. Yeah, I think it's totally fine to be inspired by the stuff that you interact with, by the music you listen to, like musicians. The people who write music and make music for the radio, they listen to music their whole life, and they were inspired by that music, and they created their own. But there's a line that gets crossed sometimes, because there are lawsuits with music where some artists believe that their musical ideas were infringed upon, and there are actual court cases to figure that out. And I'm sure the same thing can be said for games, where I don't know. Well, yeah, we're experiencing the same thing with like Pal World. Pal World, obviously, like, it doesn't take a genius to see there's some similarities. Pal World was definitely inspired by Pokemon, and the question is, how much of an inspiration is too much? How much of it goes into the realm of infringement? And that's what they're in court now, right? That's what they're in court for right now, is they're trying to figure that out. Because there are similarities, and the question is, are those similarities okay? Or are they taking too many liberties from Nintendo? And like that, with creative works, that's a really challenging topic. Because you say the same thing with like artists, like painters. If I painted a picture of a flower and it looks kind of similar to someone else's picture of a flower, is that infringement? If someone invented a new brushstroke style and other people adopted that brushstroke style, is that infringement on their ideas or their IPs? I don't really know, because in one way it is, but on another way, like, they're just pushing the bar forward. They're increasing the skill level. So I think it's okay to get inspired by things, as long as you're not just like stealing. It looks really weird because the elevation isn't there, but I can still jump on it as if it was there, like this. I'm like on the 3. It's really strange. Japan has very different copyright laws, which is very favorable to big corporations like Nintendo. I don't know the first thing about that. Game dev is a lot of fun, but you gotta strike lucky to have it sustainable. It's not luck, it's being realistic and mindful about money. Because I don't really see game dev as like... When you say make it, that can mean different things to different people. Because making it, for me, as long as I'm able to make my game and it's a great game, to me, I made it. To me, that's good enough for being considered I made it. But some people might say it has to be profitable to make it. Because that's the harsh reality that people have to experience is not only does your game have to be finished and good and it has to be like a quality product, but it also has to sell well. You are selling a product and you are taking the money that they give you to survive. Like you are paying your bills, you are paying your rent, you are paying for food. And that adds a whole different level of stress to the whole thing. Now we're not just playing games. Now we're not just creating art here. We are a business. And we are a business that needs to produce money in order to live. And if you can't do that, then you are going to have to go get a job somewhere else. Because if you don't have a job, then you can't pay your bills and you can't have a place to live. It's a really, really important aspect. So if your goal is to be a game developer, that's a scary goal because you're saying, I want to be fully independent where all the software that I create needs to produce money. And by the way, I am not in that mindset right now. If I was in that mindset right now where this program needed to produce money in order for me to pay my bills, I would have to be making some very different choices so that I could get this out the door and being sold to people. But I don't have that mindset. Right now, my mindset is I want to create the best possible thing that I can make. I'm not worried about money because I don't have to. I worked very, very hard in my software career so that I could do this comfortably. I took my time with this. I didn't want to feel the financial pressure to try and get a game out the door and try to sell it. And also, just because you get a game out the door doesn't mean it'll sell for money. Most games that sell on Steam do not make a profit. So that adds an extra layer of terror. Do you happen to have an email available for business inquiries? Yeah, if you check chalacade.com, you'll see an email there. I think. Let me double check that. Chalacade.com. I think that I relinked it to the website. Yeah, I did. There's an email link at the top. I still need to work a little bit more on that site. I do love this website, though. I'm going to show it real quick. We were talking about HTML and websites earlier, but I made this website myself, and it's really good. So it's still in progress, obviously. I haven't even been telling people about it. I'm a gamer, and I was fascinated about how they are made, and recently I saw some devlogs, and they seem so much fun, and tried to make same in Unity, and Unreal I found that's so complex, but fun too. It totally is. It totally is. That's why you just take it one step at a time. It's awesome that you downloaded Unity and tried it out. Just take it one step, because yeah, now you're seeing that like, oh, a final full product, it takes a lot of steps to get there. It takes a lot of steps to get there. How did I get the custom URL? So I purchased the domain from GoDaddy. So there's lots of domain registrars. So I use GoDaddy to register my domains. So I purchased chalacade.com. I also own MOONSHIRE.com and such, using Tailwind. It's called Winfield, if you're talking about the physics engine. But then the site is hosted, not Cloudflare. What? GoDaddy? Yeah, I use GoDaddy for the domains, and then not Cloudflare. No, I don't use Cloudflare. I use GoDaddy for domains, and then I host everything on Azure. So if you didn't know this about me, I used to work for Microsoft, and I worked on Azure. That's their cloud hosting platform. So after working there for so long, I became really familiar with it. So it felt very natural for me to host all of my sites and stuff on Azure. So that's everything that I've done. And co-op, yeah, co-op is planned. It's in the process of coming together. In fact, in this new engine, it's actually possible. I showed this in an earlier stream. If I go to input, I can create a bunch of heroes. Look at this. Look at all these players. They're all here to have a good time. And I think I can jump on them too. So all that's missing is setting up the controls and making it so that multiple people can control multiple characters at once. Weren't I able to steal some API keys? Nope, that didn't happen. Oh, we can't. I am so sorry. I was playing the game on my other monitor. I didn't even realize I was showing the wrong screen. I'm so sorry. That's so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. That is awkward. I was playing on it for like a full minute there. That is embarrassing. Okay, my bad. Okay, so I was spawning a bunch of players. Oh god, I was just doing this for several. So weird. Okay, but yeah, so it's perfectly possible now to spawn multiple instances of the player into the game, and then now all that's left is to connect like a player's controls to one of these, because this player instance right here is the exact same type of object as all of these other players. In fact, you can see all the other players like blinking and stuff. How come when you spawn them, they don't respond to the player controller? Because I'll show you. The way this works in my game, in this updated engine code, is there's two concepts. There's the player, and then there's the hero. So I have two concepts. The player is the human. I am the player. So from now on, in my code, when you say player.id, that is referring to a human. That is referring to a person who is interacting with the game. So when the game starts, it has one single player, the person who started the game, like the client, and it also automatically creates a player.mob. So every player can have a .mob, and that is one of these things. These are all mobs. And the player, like the human, has a mob attached to them. So right now, my player, has this mob attached to it. But when I want to add a second player, it's going to connect. It's going to connect with this. So it's not a singleton. Well, I mean, the whole game is a singleton. When you say a singleton, that makes it sound like it's all being led up to one single point. Game. Game.version. But game also has game, where is it? Level. Actually, I think I made level global. So level is the thing that keeps track of where is the mobs at? Oh, here it is. Level.mobs. So it's a single list of mobs. So it's multiple different lists. So it's one single list of mobs and one single list of players. But then you just make a connection. That way there can be hundreds of mobs in the game, and my player character can control any of them. So as the game continues on, and as I make new enemies, there's no limitation to what can control what. The player tables can be linked to any mob in the mob table. That's kind of the goal with all of this. Back when you said you would introduce co-op, I know. I think that we're past the stage of the game didn't come out when I originally expected it to. That's for sure. If you make level global, it's shared only in that file, right? So the way, ideally, the way globals work depends on how it is required. So in the case of this level.lua file, I decided to make level fully global, and then in load, when it loads all these files, Here it is. When it loads, these are all the global modules. All of these. And when you just base require something like this, it's going to make this, it's basically just taking whatever code is in here and adding it to the program. So since I have level set as a global variable here, when it gets loaded in like this as a require, it's going to be a global variable everywhere. So all this level stuff is globally available. Now, I think if I were to go back and redo this, I would change it so that level was a property of game. So then there would be game.load, game.update, game.draw, and there's actually all these other like game.event, ignore, and input. I think that I should put game.level in here, and then level would not be a global instance anymore. Instead, I would do kind of like what I did for probably cursor, I guess. This is really old code, where the cursor is local, and then you define all the stuff for the cursor, and then at the end of the file, you return cursor. So since this file returns cursor, it's defining this cursor table and returning it. So then what that results in is that cursor gets assigned into game.cursor. So now cursor isn't global. Game.cursor is how you reference it. So you could have a mechanic in the game where you take control of a monster. I don't think that's the vibe you're looking for. Will that be possible? That's what is possible. To answer your question, that is what's possible. You're right, that's not really the vibe of the game, but functionally, every moving object, every moving like thing is a mob, and players control mobs. So yes, you can control everything. That's not the goal. Like we're not going to be doing that. Maybe there can be like a sub mode or some like extra cool thing where you can control a boss or something like that. But the whole point is just that everything uses the same sense of objects. Everything is part of the same classes. Use 4 sprites for the shadow as 4 corners? Maybe. Because that is kind of what I'm doing in the, where would this be? In vessel elevation. I have somewhere in this elevation check. Oh, there's 8. Look, there's so much. There's so much. Where would I find this? There is some point in here where, oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it. So, the way that the elevation is calculated is it calculates the 4 cardinal edges. So if I have the player here, and we can see all of our colliders, the way it calculates elevation is it looks at the 4 corners, or the 4 edges, these 4 edges of the collider. And so if I come in here and then I draw, we'll put it over here. And we go back. Now elevation is being calculated by looking at those 4 edges. So that's why you can walk off of it mostly, because this edge is still onto it. And that code happens right here. It's calculating the 4 cardinal edge midpoints. And this is the points it's getting. And by doing that, by the way, the reason I did it this way is because before it was just calculating the midpoint. So it was just like the middle point. If the player was standing right here, the player would be considered down on the floor and they would get pushed off. But when I was playing the game like that, I found it really annoying that like you would walk up to an edge like this and you would get like sucked off the edge. So much Pokemon today, I love it. I'm here for it. How am I organizing all the ideas for Moonshire, like the traditional pen and paper, or do I use any online tool? I use pen and paper mostly, but I do also have like my OneNote document. So I have lots and lots of ideas for Moonshire, and I have my OneNote, which has all kinds of really important documents. Everything I have is stored in OneNote somewhere, and whenever I have ideas for Moonshire, I write them down somewhere, either in OneNote. I'll put it in OneNote if I really want to make sure I never lose it. So this document here is all of the ideas I've had for the jump. So I called it Z because now there's a Z axis. So I had like ideas for like a library wall, you can walk across libraries, or a Mario long jump. What I'm getting at is it's a big collection of tons of documents, and it's not organized super well, but I do know where everything's at. And same with my written notes. I have an iPad, so I have lots and lots of notes. They are distributed in all kinds of places. But I do know where everything's at, and also, when you write something down, it's a lot easier to remember because you wrote it down. Here's some ideas I got from Hades 2. So I played Hades 2 and I wrote down my ideas. Glowy ground when you're glowing. Parallax vistas, that's good. That's a good one. Terrain kills. Enemies only harm you during their attacks. Floor circles for attacks. Puddle reflects the moon. This is a really good one. Silk Song. When I played through Silk Song, I had lots of ideas. This is, by the way, this is risky, me pulling up these documents because I don't remember what I wrote in these. I could have written something like nasty. I hope I didn't. I guess I feel confident doing that because normally I don't. Like, I didn't write anything bad. I was playing through Silk Song and there's like these birds. Like, you walk up to this big collection of birds and they just fly away. And I thought that was awesome. Gold deposits that you have to smack. Oh yeah, there's ants on the walls. There's a Simon Says mini game I thought was neat. The sword clink smack, I implemented that. So yeah, all of these ideas I do write down somewhere. I'd really want to make a survival game in my dream game someday, but every time I think of it, it starts sounding like Minecraft. I mean, a lot of games are kind of falling similar. Maybe I wrote down my API keys in there. I did. Somewhere in that one note, I did. But not in that page, and not in that section, and actually not even that notebook within OneNote. But I do keep important notes in there, and some of them are like password-esque or keys. But I know with certainty where those are, and I would never open that on stream. But that's why, by the way, that's why I open up like OneNote normally. I opened it up originally off screen on my other monitor so I could check what's there, and then I moved it over. And I do that for pretty much all of like the websites and stuff that we work with on stream. After release, would you want to work on another action RPG built on the foundations of Moonshire? What I want to do is I want to make the engine customizable enough that people in-game in Moonshire can make custom levels and custom stuff and custom enemies themselves without needing to make a new game. I want it to be as customizable as possible. And that goal has two like main purposes to it. One is that when I make levels easy to design, or like when I make a level editor in the game itself, it makes the level design process easier for me. So it's a win-win. When I make a level editor, it makes the process of designing levels easier for me, and then it also makes it possible for other people to design levels. So I can pay people to design core levels for the game, or people can mod their own levels. Moonshire Maker, it would be so hype. I actually thought of that name before, calling it that, or like a DLC, or all of the DLC would be free, by the way. I would do like a Hollow Knight thing, but like an add-on where more of the game is customizable. I think that would be a lot of fun. I will definitely make a level. That'd be awesome. Because the level design process would be just like this. You would just go into the matrix mode, and then we're just gonna take some ground and we're gonna start drawing it in. But I'm noticing that I think that there's a performance concern where I need to be more mindful with some of the colliders I'm creating. I think I can actually spawn these. I can like put one of these guys on a platform. let's put him on like a 4. Oh, it pushed him off. It didn't work. Oh wow, yeah, the game is lagging really bad. It's probably hard to tell. It's probably hard to tell in on stream, but it is definitely losing frames now. And it's definitely because of the tiles. There's so many. Yeah, look at this. This is bugged too. Even level editor is damn creative. Thank you. I think that I think of features that I would want to have. When I was a kid playing like Zelda, I would have loved being able to make my own dungeons. And they have that, I think, in Link's Awakening for Switch. But I never actually tried it. Added weather? Yeah, there's weather in the game. Not in this new engine. I still need to add that. Is this Godot? No, this is Love 2D. That's the framework I'm using. But a lot of the stuff is really custom, so at this point it's hard to really say. Could this level editor help you with procedural generation? Yes, definitely. Because the idea is it's a lot easier to procedurally generate a matrix of 1s and 2s and 5s. Like, it's a lot easier for me to generate a big collection of numbers compared to, like, what else do you do? A big collection of tiles or objects? It feels very intuitive to design levels this way, where procedural generation kind of falls in line with that as well. It definitely could be possible. Ask Cloud about the performance issues. Sure, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We'll see what it can find. So I'm going to add in a bunch of these. I'm going to add in a bunch of these. And I'm going to make the performance as bad as we can. And we're going to describe the poor performance to Claude. And we're going to see what it says. Because maybe it found something. So we should have fine performance in matrix mode. I think it's only going to get slow when we switch back to this. Yeah, so we're back to slow mode. Oh, I can jump off their head to get up top. There. Oh, dang it. Didn't work. Not quite. So, yep, it is acting very slow now. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let me make sure I don't need to check any of these things in. Because, by the way, whenever I prompt the AI to look at the code or make any changes, I always check in. Because it does make mistakes somewhat regularly where I need to revert. And if I didn't have source control or version control to revert, it would be a nightmare. I'll go ahead and check all this stuff in. Live stream demo. Is this game in Unity? No, this is in Love 2D. If you were to add any Easter eggs from favorite games or shows, I don't really want to think about that too much right now because I've had Easter egg ideas, but it's kind of changing. I think that the Easter eggs are going to be decided towards the end of development just because that's more like a fun little small thing. Everything looks like custom engine. I mean, like the level editor I made is completely custom. Most of the stuff in this game is custom. The name of the engine is Level 2D. No, it's Love 2D. Love. Okay, so, like I was saying, everything's checked in. And we're going to ask it. It's gonna be in Terra.lua. We're gonna go over to the AI. Looks like I was asking it something earlier. We're gonna give it the Terra context. I'm gonna say, Terra.lua is used for generating tons of tiles and platform slabs for the to be used as the game's level. However, there's a problem where spawning lots of tiles and slabs causes the game to stutter a bit and lose frames. Perhaps the large number of tiles is causing slowdown? Is it... It likely isn't the number of colliders. should the tile draws be batched in a more intelligent way? That's what I think the problem is that there's too many tiles and it's trying to draw them all in a weird way. Also, the problem might exist in render.lua, since that's where the tile order rendering logic happens. Hopefully it's... I think it's still able to remember that I asked that previous question. Okay. Do I do unit or integration tests in game dev? No, right now, no. When I worked in the software development space, I did. I really want to make a survival game as my dream game. Oh, Danny, you already said that. But yeah, I'm with you that survival games have a lot of aspects that are similar to Minecraft, but Minecraft also took a lot of those ideas from survival games. Mythical Rock, how can you hide the annoying URL address.index.html? Oh. In my case, the index.html is covered because you have to use... What's the name for it? In your domain registrar, you're able to change what the endpoint of that URL is. Okay, so by default, when you have like chalacade.com, by default it's going to try and find some namespace server, but you can set it to redirect to a different website. So you could set it so chalacade.com redirects to YouTube, like my YouTube channel, but it'll still say chalacade.com at the top. So what I'm suggesting is you can set the reroute, I think is what it is, or redirect for your URL in your registrar to redirect from index, or can you do that? I take software development classes right now. How hard is it to start game dev? You can start game dev right now. You don't need any experience whatsoever. Just download any engine, any framework, and try it out. How lightweight is Love2D compared to Raylib or something like Love2D? They're all lightweight. As far as I know, Raylib and Love2D are pretty similar. Love2D might be a little bit more compared. Okay, so the AI finished, and let's see what it did. It said, I can see the performance issue. The tiles are being drawn individually and render::display, which means hundreds or thousands of individual love.graphics.draw calls per frame. This is very inefficient. The solution is to use Sprite batch to batch all tile draws into a single GPU call. So already I'm going to predict a problem. I'm going to predict a problem with this because I think it can't do that. I don't think it can do that because each tile is going to be on different rendering layers. I think this is going to consolidate all the tiles into one single layer and it's going to be bad. So I don't think this is going to work. It says, perfect, now I've optimized the tile rendering with a Sprite batch. This change will drastically improve performance. All tiles are now batched into a single texture draw call. That's not possible. That's not possible. That's not possible. So I am still going to keep this because I think one more prompt can improve on this. So to clarify what happened, before, when I created tons and tons of these like tiles, it was going to be drawing all these tiles individually, but now it's not going to do that. So now it's drawing all of the tiles in one sprite call, in one batch call, and so the performance is way better. And I can already tell, it's not lagging nearly as much as it was before, even though there's more tiles currently. So the problem, though, is that the batching can't do that. Because some tiles are going to cover up some objects while not covering up others. I think. Here, let's test it out with a better level. So in game.lua, instead of starting on live stream, let's start on demo 2. Okay, so this is a really bad demo level. Okay, so far it's working. So this is what I expect to be a problem, is when I spawn like a player and put the player right here. Whoop, that's not what I wanted to happen. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That is such a bad habit. I wonder if I can... I think I can fix this. Because I keep opening up the game and playing it on the wrong monitor. I'm so sorry about that. But there's a fix. There's a fix in conf.lua. I think I can tell it which monitor to open the game on. So if I go over to the Love2D documentation, actually, no, I'm gonna use documentation. Love2D conf.lua. Dude, the Love2D wikis. I think the Love2D wiki has really bad SEO right now. Something's really wrong with it. I keep looking for confs, like I keep searching for stuff, it's not coming up. Here we go. So this tells us all of the properties that we can put into conf.lua, and one of them I think is monitor. Index of the monitor to show the window in. So I'm gonna take this. Okay. There we go. Oh, didn't work. Didn't work. That's weird because, like, when I do this, you can see it pop up on the correct monitor for a moment. Well, yeah, look, there it is, and then it moves. So sad. Let's ask AI to fix that one. I'm trying to make it so the window always opens on display too, but right now, when the game opens, it opens for a moment on the 2 monitor before resolution adjusting and switching back to monitor 1. Okay, so while it works on that, I want to test out its change, because it made that change about sprite batching. And again, I don't think it's going to work because this is what I'm talking about. So notice how the player walks behind these tiles and the tiles are covering up the player. But then I walk down here and these tiles are not covering up the player. How does that happen? It happens because in my render file, in render.lua, it reorders all the tiles. And it has to use all this like really precise logic to order them properly. So if it's sprite batching, I don't think it's gonna work. What do I use? This is VS Code. So what I think is gonna happen is if I spawn a player and then I put him behind it, it's still working. Like, the game is working really well, but I don't know why. Okay, let's actually analyze the code that it wrote. Okay, first it fixed that. The issue is that the display setting is being applied, but then something in your initialization, yeah. Found it. The love.window set mode in settings, we're setting the window, which moves it back to the primary display. The solution is to add the display parameter to these set mode calls. Okay. Just like settings.borderless, please implement an actual property for storing this data. Period, I guess. Okay, so what I was gonna do is I wanted to see what it actually changed. Back up here. Okay, so it did add this sprite batch. Get a tile set. For all tiles. Add all tiles, but how can it add it all to the... What I'm confused about is if it's drawing these tiles as a sprite batch, and they're all being drawn as one... basically as one big image, I do not see how it's possible. Well... Dude, I don't know. I guess it's... I don't know. It works. I just don't think it should. Is what I'm getting at. Okay, so settings now has this display value too, and whenever the settings like applies it changes the window settings, it's going to remember that. Can we call it vibe coding? When you're using one of these AI like tools, a lot of people do call it that. But I also think that vibe coding kind of has a bad connotation to it, so I don't really like calling it that. So let's see. Oh, VS Code crashed. Look at this. It's crashed. I can't click on anything. Try putting a here behind to go in front without jumping. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, we're back. That was weird. I don't know why it broke. Okay, so now the game should start. Yeah, okay, there it goes. It stayed. It stayed on the correct window. So that's actually a cool feature. In the game, in fact, I don't even think I want this because it's gonna change immediately. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So in your settings, you'll be able to choose which display you want to keep it on. The term context coding, that's an interesting one. I like that. What were the policies for using Gen AI at Microsoft? Here's the funny thing, is I left the company before Gen AI was useful. So we didn't use it. We had no AI tooling at all, as far as I know. Like, if we had AI tooling, it was very, very minor, maybe for some tests, but no, there was no AI coding at all when I was there, which is really strange because I bet today it's different. I don't know. Considering that Microsoft is the owner of GitHub, owner of Copilot and GitHub Copilot, I have to imagine that they are pretty gung-ho about using it on the job. I do know other corporate companies that are using it a lot. But it is funny that even though it was only a few years ago that I was working there, things are so different today with coding where I bet that the style of coding there is very different. I don't even know. It's very weird. You work for Accenture, it's a requirement now? Really? That's crazy. I'm a hero. Put a hero behind the hill and go in front without jumping on the hill to see if the layering stays. Yeah, let's check that. Let's check that. That's kind of what I was trying to do. So we'll put a hero, we'll put him right, we'll put him right here. So he's hidden behind it. Okay? But I can still, well, I can't see him. So let's move him over to this one. Yeah, so that's what's really surprising me. I thought that this scenario here would not work with the Claude Code implementation of the performance fix, because the performance fix that I asked it to do was to add sprite batching to the tiles. I actually asked it to do that, but I didn't anticipate it to consolidate it down into one single sprite batch. That doesn't seem possible for the tiles because some tiles are covering up objects like this one, and some tiles are not covering up objects like this one. Butterfly, hi. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate that. Are you planning on getting back into the industry after finishing my game dev journey? Nope. No plans for that. If you don't comply with training, you can get in trouble. I mean, that's true with a lot of companies. Yeah, Ola knows that. I think they're just asking, should I or will I go back to work? Will I go back to working in the industry or being employed? And the answer is no. I plan to be independent from now on. Either I stick with games forever, or I stick with some other software. I'm not sure, but I am very confident that I'm going to stay independent forever. And that, again, the reason I'm able to do that isn't because like my games are selling well. That's definitely not true. It's because I worked very, very hard and lived super low below my means while I was working, and I didn't spend money at all. I didn't go on vacations. I didn't buy anything. Even right now, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's just, I live in a very low cost of living lifestyle. And essentially, I was just kind of trying to like min-max my expenses so that I could save up as much as I could, so that I could do this comfortably. Being an independent artist, like if it's a game developer or a musician or a painter, any sort of independent artist, it's going to be so stressful because there's a money component. Like this independent artist still needs to pay their bills, or if they have a family. Like it was easier for me because I'm a single guy, but a lot of people have families, or they have dependents, or they have aging parents that they need to take care of. Or they have health conditions. There's so many things that can be a factor in people's lives. And I am just so thankful and so fortunate that I was able to be very strategic and methodical about it, and really, really min-max everything to make it work. But it's going to be different for every person. So, and it's going to be different based on where you live, too. I happen to live somewhere where this was possible. I don't know if that's possible everywhere. But I do know that money is necessary to live. And I do know that producing art doesn't normally produce money. Like, art is great. Producing games is fun, but it doesn't always produce money. I make videos for YouTube, and it's helpful, but it doesn't produce that much money. It's a cool thing. How old is he? I'm 29. Sounds like a dream come true. At least the latter part. Yeah, overall I'd say so. It was definitely it takes sacrifices though, because like I said, I'm a single guy, and I'm 29, and for some people, that is a very uncomfortable thing. Like, a lot of people really want to have a family and really, really value that, and for them, like, that's a priority. That's an important priority for people to make. To get married and have a family, or have dependents, or whatever your thing is. It could be traveling. It could be a world traveler, and that's expensive. Or you could have some like really expensive sport that you're into. I don't know. Everyone has their own story is what I'm getting at. So have you been living mostly off of savings your entire time doing game dev? The savings were necessary, yes. Right now, I pay my bills because I have YouTube bringing in some money. Not very much, but some. I have Udemy bringing in some money. Again, not very much, but some. And there's like Skillshare, some other small sources of income. But the answer to the question is no. All of that stuff is not covering my living expenses. I am in the red every single month. But like I said, I was very methodical and mindful of this. And I am still not worried, despite that. I'm taking the steps to increase my income every month, like doing these streams and having people donate is helpful, and the memberships. I love that. I did turn off ads, but I'll turn them on for the VOD, I guess. And what I'm getting at is that there will be ways to make money, but I made sure that as I was making this game, I wouldn't be stressed by money. I am mindful of it. I do know that I need to make money, but I am not stressed by it. And I think there are a lot of developers out there that are very stressed by money. It's really nice to share bits of your personal life. Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. I think that it sounds fun to be like, oh, I'm gonna be a low-income game developer. I'm just gonna make games and make it work. Like it sounds fun until like you get kicked out of your apartment because you couldn't pay your rent, and then now it's like, okay, well I actually do need to have money if I want to live, so I guess I'm gonna have to go get a job. And so now you're working a job to pay your bills, and then you come home and you don't have the energy to work because you worked all day. So it's a scary thing. It's a very ambitious goal to try to be an independent artist and try to make money off of it. And I say that as someone who still is not successfully doing that. I'm doing this independently because I saved up money and I'm investing well. But I'm not doing this because like I'm making a ton of money off of my games or off of my videos and stuff. It's bringing in a little bit, but it's like not even enough to cover my rent. If I didn't have other sources of income, if I didn't have my savings to make this work, it would not work. Because I still, even with this YouTube channel and Udemy and all the stuff I'm doing to produce money, it's not even covering rent, let alone food and gas and car payment and whatever else, going to the doctor. There's lots of expenses that go on in life. And if I was strapped for cash, that would be really scary to be in that situation. I'm really considering dropping my game dev ambitions completely. I don't think you should drop your game dev ambitions completely. I think that you should shift your career focus. Because if you graduate with, or if you go through, I think if you were an artist or a musician and your goal was to be a professional musician, I would tell you, don't try to be a professional musician because that's very, very hard. What you should do is you should get a career that pays well so that you can pay your bills and live comfortably and be a musician. Alongside that, you don't need to be a musician full-time. You don't need to be a professional full-time musician in order to be a musician. You should just be a musician. It costs no money to be a musician. You can just start singing. Right now, it's free, and then suddenly a musician. And same with game development. You can just download Love2D or download GameMaker or Godot, and suddenly you're making games. Like, you don't need a game development degree to make games. You don't need a music degree to make music. But you do need a job to live. You do need an income. You do have bills to pay. That is the one truth, one certain thing. So no matter what your career prospects are, make sure that it goes in a direction that will land you a job so that you can do the thing you want to do. If game development is the thing you want to do, you're not going to be able to do it if you have no money. So make sure that whatever career you go into is going to pay the bills so that you have the means of doing what you love. If you want to make music, Wolf and I are friends on like Discord, but we've been friends for a long time, and she helps out a lot with the Discord and testing and mods and stuff. Yeah, sorry for that like side tangent. It's a really, really tough subject because the idea of like what job am I going to do for the rest of my life? It's really easy to say I want to be a game developer and then go get a game development degree. But I don't know if it's that simple because the game development industry is kind of washy. Like, there's a lot of people out there with game development degrees who don't have jobs. And if you don't have a job, you can't really make games. You can't really do anything because it's like, that's just how money works. It's really, really stressful. So I think those artists or those developers would be better off getting a job in something, it could be completely unrelated. Like nursing right now is popping off like crazy. If you got a nursing degree, you would be able to have a really wildly successful career as a nurse, and then you can make games, you can make music, you can be an artist, you can do whatever you want while you're making $120,000 a year as a 10-year nurse or whatever. On the flip side, being a starving artist, it can be fun, but it can be stressful too. What mainly scared me away from Love Engine is that it's exclusively code stuff, while I prefer more visual workflow, like Godot, Unity, or GameMaker. I definitely get that. The working with a framework is definitely a challenge for that reason itself. Because an engine in general is going to have lots and lots of features in place that just make it easier to work with. And a framework is intentionally very, very lightweight, where it just doesn't have very much going for it. And some people like that and some people don't. It does take some getting used to. Like, I switched from GameMaker to Love2D back in the day. And that was a very hard transition for me because, like you said, I was going from a visual workflow to just a code-focused one. And that was not easy for me to do. GameMaker Crab, yeah, that's me. I'm more of a visual workflow person, mainly because I grow up around firms like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by that, because even a movie director has to picture things in their mind. A movie director can't just see things. Like when the person making Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they had to picture the set in their mind. They had to think really, really hard. What props do we need? What characters are going to be in the scene? What is the music and volume and the sound effects going to be like? And same with Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's the same thing. The creator of that movie had to design all the characters and like envision what the flow and what each scene would look like, and then execute on it. It's the same thing with Love 2D. There's just fewer tools to like visually see all that. It is a lot of like I've meant more in a way of visual organization and picture everything, while Love is more code everything. You're right about that. You have to do a lot more of the heavy lifting yourself when it comes to organization and keeping track of everything. Because GameMaker, and really any engine, is going to have tons of tools in place that just make it a lot easier to keep track of everything. Whereas, yeah, a framework, you're kind of on your own. I love making my own code. I love making my own code too. I'm a big fan of it. So right now I'm just putting in a bunch of these elevations to see if maybe the sprite batch that it implemented actually did help performance. Because before it was really sluggish when I added all these. Switch back. Oh, it's slugging. It did not fix it. Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah, too bad. I think I'm gonna undo the sprite batch changes it added, actually. I need to leave this, though. I need to leave that, too. In this. I'm gonna try prompting it one more time to see if it can figure it out. But I don't think it's going to. I think that this problem is too complex. Regarding your sprite batch for level creation via terra.lua, you implemented the batching to improve performance, but it did not help. When I run the game with tons of tiles, it chugs. So, I suspect your implementation is not as batchy as it should be, because the tiles are ordered in a very precise way where they overlap certain mobs, props, and get covered up by other mobs, props, based on based on elevation. Your sprite batch implementation claims to just use one single call for all tiles, but I do not see how that's possible given the multi-layered aspect in relation to mobs and props. Can you reinvestigate and possibly find what's causing your fix not to help? Check render.lua and all of the terra.lua files. Okay, we'll see if that does anything. Are you sure the problem can't be colliders? It can be. It definitely can be. The reason I don't think it is... the reason I don't think it is because I have run the game with lots of colliders. Actually, I'll go ahead and show it while it's working on that. I'll go over to game. I'll let this finish. I'll show it afterwards. But I can spawn the game with tons and tons of little colliders, like props and debris, and it doesn't cause much of a slowdown compared to, but I still should check it. You're right that I still should check. Probably navigable graph, and then use a standard pathfinding algorithm like A star. Yeah, that's what I use in this game. It's not necessarily A star, it's just like a grid of points, and all the points have different data that I can use. Makes sense. I added a jump system to my 2D game a few months ago, but I haven't begun working on the pathfinding. I'll probably start with an approach like that. Yeah, pathfinding and AI, or really any artificial intelligence that an NPC has, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. This song is from Deltarune Chapter 4, but I haven't really heard anyone talking about it. I played through chapters 1 through 3, but when Chapter 3 and 4 came out, or sorry, 1 through 4, but when Chapter 3 and 4 came out, I didn't really hear anyone talking about it. I think the reason for that is just because Chapters 1 and 2 were free, and then Chapter 3 and 4 were not free. Okay. Before, 1,000 tiles equals 1,000 individual draw calls. After, 1,000 tiles might become 10 to 50 batches depending on how objects interleave. Exactly. This is what I was expecting. This is exactly what I was expecting it to do. This properly balances batch efficiency with the depth sorting. Yeah, there we go. Let's see how this... What did it actually change? Oh, it actually only changed... It changed one... Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and just add a bunch of really tall boys. What games do I usually play? I play games as they come out, mostly indies, I'd say. So like this past month was pretty busy. I played through Silksong and Hades 2. And I'm also a Nintendo fan, so I played Pokemon Legends ZA, which I liked. And now I'm not playing anything, but really I play games as they come out whenever like there's a big noteworthy release, because I don't know about you guys, I just have not been very impressed by AAA games. It's been a while since I played a AAA game that I've been super impressed by, so I haven't really been playing them very much. Yeah, what about AAA games? If Nintendo counts as AAA, I do play some of those, but I don't have a Switch 2 yet. There's not enough games that I want to play for that. Metroid Prime 4. There we go. That's the next game I'm gonna play. Metroid Prime 4 comes out on December 5th, I think, and I will probably play that as long as the reviews are good. Now, I don't know if any of you keep up with like preview reviews for Metroid Prime 4, but there is an interesting detail about the game that seems like it might make it a little bit weird. There's these weird talking characters that follow you around. It seems kind of weird. In Unity, there's a frame debugger which shows you what and how objects are being rendered. That's pretty cool. Is there an equivalent for Left2D? What you're describing sounds like a way for me to check and see what layers are covering up other layers, which I could do that. It would take some like custom code though. I would need to code it in. So let's see if the performance is better. Hey, look at this! The performance is really good. Okay, let's add more. We'll add some 5s. Yeah, it's fixed because I don't think that its previous solution actually did anything. I think that what its previous solution did was it implemented a sprite batch, but it just created 1,000 sprite batches, one for each tile. Whereas now, it's going to batch all of these 5s together. Angry Berry, hi, welcome back. We're testing out some performance fixes because we noticed that there was like a slowdown whenever I created too many tiles. What did Claude actually do? Claude created a sprite batch. It's basically checking to see which tiles are on the same render ordering layer, and it's going to batch those together. So if we look at tiles, I don't think it did anything in tiles. So this file, it changed it in render. So this section here is going to batch consecutive tiles together. So the way that this batching or this render file works is render is going to go through everything in the game, every tile, every object, and figure out what its elevation is. And the reason it does that is because the stuff that's high elevation needs to be covering up the stuff that's low elevation. You can't have stuff that's on the ground, like its sprite covering up stuff that's in the sky. So this rendering, it's figuring out what's the elevation, what's the order that it needs to be drawn in. And what was happening before is if there was like 1,000 tiles, it was going to be individually drawing and running logic on all 1,000 of those tiles. And that was not necessary because a lot of the tiles are right next to each other, and there's no need to individually process unique logic for every tile when like all of these twos are going to have the exact same render ordering logic, and so it makes sense to batch those together. And batching, by the way, is just like a performance method where instead of draw this tile, 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 it's going to batch all of them together and then just do one draw that draws them all at once. And previously, like, it tried to do that before, but it didn't work. It just batched each tile in its own batch. It was dumb. My main inspiration as game dev is Night in the Woods. Ooh, I love that. I love Night in the Woods. I have a Night in the Woods song in this playlist, actually. My inspirations are like Nintendo and Zelda. I like Link to the Past a lot. Or, sorry, Link's Awakening a lot. I like Link to the Past, too. So let's see. I think that the problem is fixed. I am so happy about that. I was worried because I knew that the performance issue was there. I see a problem here. There's tiles underneath of other tiles here. That's not really that big of a deal. This is a bug, and this is a bug, but I can fix those too. Any way to check FPS? Yes, I can check out FPS. I think I have a debug for that. Yeah, show FPS. I should have had this on the whole time. It's tiny. It's tiny. You can barely even see it. Let me see if I can make it bigger. FPS. Not in any meaningful way. Love.graphics.set font. It didn't work. I'm just gonna let it be small because we're at the end of stream. I don't want to re-implement that. But let's go ahead and test it. And I'll just tell you what it says. It's very, very tiny. I'm very sorry that it's tiny, but you can see the tiny green text up in the corner. It's telling us what the frame rate is, and it's at 60 right now. And if I take some 6s and just go crazy, I'm gonna go nuts. So the frame rate still says 60, or it's like changing from 60 to like 58 and 60. So it's losing some frames. Maybe that's because I'm streaming. Okay, so this is introducing tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of tiles. Let's see if it makes the performance go down. It doesn't. It's still 60. 58, 60, 60, 60. It's still 60. 59, 60. Yeah, it's fixed. It's in really good shape. I'm very, very happy about that. I'm so happy that like the tile batching thing fixed it. Can you test with the old code? Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, that's a really funny idea. Let's do that. I'm going to check this in and then revert to the previous commit to test it. I don't think any of this stuff is... I think this is all garbage. Let me make sure that... No break. Okay, so let's... I'm going through and making sure that this is all good to check in. So that's the batching. That's good. I mean, I'm just glancing. I'll be analyzing this deeper even more. All this stuff. This is all of this stuff is stuff that I changed. So, tile batching. Okay, so we saw that in this version of the code, it does work. But we can see down here, these are all of my previous commits. And we can click on this one, and we can check out detached. So now we are running from that old version before the Sprite batch fix. And I'm going to turn on show DPS or FPS. Okay, here we are in our empty level. And up here in the corner, it's tiny, but it says 60. So we are getting 60 frames. I'm going to go to the editor. I'm going to draw in a bunch of craziness. Okay, let's test it. 32 frames, 33 frames per second, 34, 35, 38, 34, 33. We're getting 35-ish frames per second. So that fix legitimately was a lifesaver. That really, really worked well because we're getting 35 frames per second now. And I need to... How do you check out to main? Pull up, check out to this one. This is all just moving between branches. There we go. So now we're back to the up-to-date version, and I'm going to test it one more time. Okay, we're here. We're gonna add all of those tiles back. Smooth as butter. 60 frames. 60, 59, 57, 60. 60 frames. 60. Still 60. That's amazing. I'm so happy. That is so, so good. Did I whistle blow during my time at Boeing? No, I did not. I was a good boy. I'm so dumb. Since when does Love2D have timer.sleep? I wrote my own code for that. Yeah, it does. That just pauses the whole game for a moment. So I think I used that somewhere in the code for what was it? Where would this be? In update maybe? Because I had this code that could force the frame rate below a certain point. So there was, if you wanted to like test your game at low frame rates, like 10 FPS, you can use love.sleep in the update function to just like pause the game every like few frames or something like that. In the new code, what if you add different numbers next to each other? 5, 8, 1 to see if handles even if the blocks aren't grouped. Oh, okay. So I do know you're saying, is it going to group the blocks properly? And the answer is no. That's still in progress. Because right now, I have it handling like isolated clusters like this pretty well. But if I were to put like a 2 right here, I think it's gonna look a little bit jank. But let's see. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not bad. It's not bad, but it's also the collision's weird. It put a collider right here. Yeah, look, there's a collider right here. That's not good. That shouldn't be there. You don't understand what's happening? Oh, it's a level editor. So you can like go anywhere in the level and just like draw in places. So I wanted to show this. I can draw like a stair stepper. So I'm gonna put some 9s here, and then an 8, and then 7, and then 6, and 5. One. Okay, there we go. This is gonna be awesome. So look, it created like this rising batch of taller and taller platforms, and you can jump up them. I love this. It's just amazing. It feels like a real game. And it's hard to tell how high in the air the character is because there's nothing else in the level. It's like big blank level. But like you can fall off the edge like that. Yeah, it needs shadows because you can't see where the colliders are. Because this is where the ground is where this is. And all of this stuff is just like up in the air. Level editor will accelerate development. I hope so. I really hope it does. I sound like I'm from either Illinois or Missouri. I'm surprised that you can tell I'm from Illinois, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I have a little bit of Midwest baked into my vernacular, I'm sure. I do love the grid system in the level editor. Thank you, I love it too. It's gonna be a really, really big help. But yeah, on that note, I'm gonna end stream for today. It's 10 after, and I'm gonna go get my McDonald's. I'm a big fan of getting my McDonald Monday on Moonshire Monday. But thank you all so much for being here. It was a very, very good stream. I really appreciate all the support and all of the folks being here. Lots of returning people. I really, really appreciate that. People like Wolf and Ole, Yekno, Dan, Angry Berry, Adele, T. Mackle, Astro Penguin, and Lynn. Thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate that, and I will see you all next week. Adele, Jean-Luca, Dorjulinus, Kami. Thank you all. I'll be back next week. Bye. Whoops, where is it? Bye.